All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless, no story is worthless. Today, ladies and gentlemen, man, y'all know I got to keep it home team, hometown, Chicago, Illinois, putting it down. And the guests that I have on the show today making major waves, okay, in the entertainment field, just all over. So please put your hands together for Mr. Troy Pryor.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate that.
Man, no problem, brother. How are you?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm grateful to be here. Happy to keep things going. Glad to be on the show today.
Hey, look here, man. I am happy to have you on the show, and blessed, ladies and gentlemen, is an understatement, okay? So let's just get right into it. You, sir, are the founder of Creative Cypher and Pryor Holdings. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about, part of the reason why we're here. So you are also, I believe, the Chicago Film Accelerator is a Creative Cypher Project.
Right.
Okay. And basically, it's a content lab intended to discover new Black and Indigenous people of color, talent, and increase creative pipelines in the entertainment industry. Can you just give us a little bit more detail about that platform?
Yeah, the program we launched about 3 years ago in an initiative to do all those things that you just mentioned, but I sit on a bunch of boards and sat on boards. And, when you're in the room, sometimes you're closest to the answer furthest from the decision. And so I realized that the only way to get done what I thought should be moving was to create it myself and then invite those entities to be a part of it. So I launched a program 3 years ago. We got about 35 Chicago organizations to be a part of it and contribute in some capacity because we already knew what the gaps were. We knew what they needed. We knew what they were lacking. In most cases, it was they needed more Black and brown folks. They needed millennial. They needed Gen Z. They needed tech savvy. So I built a program that helped them fill a lot of those gaps. So it made it easy for them to say yes or hard to say no. The second thing was a lot of labs are great in theory, but they don't finish with a tangible product. So I wanted to make sure that there was actually something that was completed at the end of the program. And so we were able to effectively do that twice, got on radar from some national organizations and continue to grow. And now the program is at a place where we've selected our winner. They get a $50,000 prize package, which includes cash plus in-kind resources, brand partners, swag, just a lot of great things that offer a ton of value to that creator, all in an effort to help them stay motivated, complete their project. But during that time, we also bring in industry mentors so that they can provide wisdom throughout the process. Because one of the things is true, man, is you can't just say, here's a check or here are all these resources. You got to have some insight that's provided as well, because, it doesn't guarantee it, but, especially for emerging artists, it's easy to blow the money if you don't have individuals to help guide you. And so we wanted to make sure that we included that because, again, remember our goal, got to finish with a product. It's got to be something at the end. Otherwise, it's just talk. So we wanted to make sure that was in place. But the other reason why we got those partners as mentors in place strategically was because it opened the door to the media companies that they were connected to. So now when that project is done or when that artist has completed their project, there's a direct pipeline to all of those entities that have representatives that are on our program. Beyond that point, it's also a creative way that we as the leaders of the program, who are also a part of a variety of projects, have that same direct pipeline to those individuals. And it's one of the things that I always tell folks, especially as people of color, we've always had to be super strategic about getting a seat at the table, creating our own table, or knocking down a door where the others may have not had to think about some of these things. Creative Cypher and a lot of the stuff that I've built, even the Accelerator, were really all a means to an end to get access that others may have been born with. And, you know, when we look at it, you break down this whole thing and you're like, man, this whole thing was a way to get in. And now the program stands on its own merit. We're happy that it's scaling to other cities, but it's certainly showing the value that we can provide creators and the streaming platforms that are constantly looking for talent and content.
Okay, now look, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Troy Pryor has dropped some jewels in between, you know, those sentences. I don't know if y'all picked on some of those things, but, you know, one of the things I heard was, hey, not only like winning and getting the money, but not blowing the money, you know, and it's not necessarily blowing the money because you don't have anything to do with it, but as you said, sometimes, you know, we may win something in a contest or whatever, and okay, this is my project. I built this project. Now, what do I do with this project? You know, I've entered all these contests. Yes, I won this, I won that, but what's the next step? So as you were talking about a finished product at the end, that is key. Getting the product in front of people who can help, mentors or what have you, and take it to the next level to really get it out there. That is key, you know. And I'm just going to say it, hey, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Z, you know, like, this is the wave of the future. I mean, you all are more like tech savvy than, you know, some of us who are not, you know, millennials or what have you. I'm not a boomer. I'm just saying, you know, but it's a more tech savvy world. And, you know, for you to create this platform for those, you know, people, you know, man, especially Black and Indigenous people of color, you know, Black and brown people, man, to help us out and to put us, you know, on like levels or build our own tables, as you say, that is very key. And not only build a table, but have people that look like us around the table that can help one another and, you know, eventually build other tables for other folks so they can, you know, take their stuff to the next level as well. So, whoop, look, the man is on a mission, y'all. All right, he is on a mission. And excuse, now you said you've been doing this for the last 3 years?
This program is going into its third year, yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some of those cities and, you know, things, but I want to talk about, you mentioned something as far as networks and things of that nature. Now I know this has gotten the attention of a lot of executives in the TV and film industry. Can you just give us a few of the names, you know, or companies, you know, on board with this?
Yeah. So we're very grateful to have several showrunners, folks from BET on board the project as well. You know, folks like Diallo Riddle, who created Southside. Shout out Southside. See a lot of dope folks from Chicago on that show. He was one of our mentors on our second cycle. So grateful to have him back on the third cycle. We also have some other stars from shows like Lamorne Morris, who's from Chicago. He's the lead of the show Woke. Then we've got the two co-executive producers from the new show Bel Air, which is coming out, Jashika and Janika James. So grateful to have them on board as well. And then we have some other execs that work in-house at the networks as well, from HBOMax, Netflix, and Univision, because we're launching Cipher Latino next month. So that's a whole other chapter in our journey. But we're really grateful to have them on board because, you know, it's very difficult to get, you know, access at times or build those relationships. And so we knew that instead of pitching one project saying like, oh, this is a dope project, we'd love for you to check this out, we knew that framing the program as something that's aligned with their business goals would give us a greater opportunity to build the relationship. And the content conversation just comes with the territory because you already have the relationship there. So, you know, we've got tons of projects that we could have pitched, but you sort of just fall into a whole, you know, folder of a bunch of folks that are pitching shows. Whereas this was a totally different angle with what we were pitching them.
Okay. All right. Look, let me just say, you know, you have definitely blown my mind. you know, folks from BET, as you said, you know, the creators of Southside, you know, which is filmed here in Chicago, you know, HBOMax, Bel Air. I know that's on right now, and you know it's getting rave reviews or what have you. But Sci-Fi Latino, that's coming up next month.
Yeah, Cipher Latino.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yep.
Cipher Latino. Okay, all right, man. Look, you putting us on, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, man, trying to create a platform where there's like usually no room for platforms to be created, especially for people, you know, like us. So I know you were talking about plans to expand outside of Chicago. What other cities were you planning to expand to?
So we're happy to say we've already expanded to Milwaukee. And one of the reasons we've done that was because, you know, we do have the opportunity to go to what we consider the majors, LA, New York. But we wanted to make the biggest impact and going to markets that we would call like mid-majors. So like a Miami, Chicago is major, but it's not LA or New York, you know. So going to the markets where we would have the highest ceilings, you know, we'd have a larger opportunity to grow, make a bigger impact. And so we've launched in Chicago already. We launched in Milwaukee 2 weeks ago. We've got strategic partners in Atlanta, Puerto Rico, and UK. So we'll be launching those three in London this year. We have plans to launch in Miami, LA, and New York, but we'll do that on the next round. But by the end of this year, we'll have the program in 5 markets.
Now, you know, let me just say, that is genius. Because as you said, you know, it's easy to go to a New York. It's easy to go to a LA. Those are very big markets. Tons of things always happening there. Chicago, as you say, yes, is a, you know, big market, but we're sort of caught in the middle of those two, you know. So to have a Miami, which I know they have all kinds of like music festivals, art festivals, things of that nature. I want to say Art Basel is there, you know, as well. So Atlanta, music mecca, but you know, as far as projects, they're on the come up as well. You know, they've been filming plenty of projects in Atlanta for like the last couple of years. Puerto Rico, United Kingdom, mind blown, ladies and gentlemen, because like seriously, you know, especially when you talk about like, I guess you would consider it international in a sense, you know, but like, I never hear anything about projects coming out of Puerto Rico. I wouldn't even think to film or, you know, even build a platform in Puerto Rico. Like, who's going to, like, be here to listen to this? But there's talent there, and, yeah, he's making a way for the talent.
Oh, it's a ton of talent. I mean, the reality is a ton of talent in a lot of places. One of the whole reasons we launched the Cipher was because there was this question of when are you moving to LA? So just this concept of you have to leave to make it, or there's no talent. Like I always tell people, you need to have access. There's no way of getting around. If you want to succeed in this business, you're going to go through LA. You're going to go through New York. You're going to go through, but going through means different things for different people. It doesn't always mean relocating. It just, especially in the digital world, it means access. And so you can do a lot from wherever you are, but you need the access to the decision makers and the infrastructures. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, look at, if COVID didn't teach us anything outside of that, we need to, you know, take better care of ourselves, but you don't have to be locked in any particular room, in any particular studio to keep going. And so there are talented folks in all of these places realizing that, saying that I'm not going to jump ship and immediately go and leave right away. I'm going to set things up. I'm going to make sure I have a base. I'm going to create a bridge. I'm going to game plan it. And in doing so, it allows something like the Accelerator to identify artists like that and align with them and say, we have an infrastructure or like an interstate highway that now you can use back and forth to achieve those goals. And so we develop strategic alliances first. Like our UK partners, we've been working with them for like the past 3 years, collaborating on things. So just to be clear for those that are listening, we're not just overnight jumping into any of these markets. We've been planning collaborations, and when the opportunity presented itself for this specific project to be something that we collaborated on, we already had the inroads in those places. So it's key. I was listening to Bob Johnson in an interview yesterday. Coincidentally, we both graduated from University of Illinois, and he said, make your friends before you need them. And it was just simple, but it makes a lot of sense. I see a lot of folks in general, but especially in the creative world, that can be challenged with, like, you need to hone your craft. You got to have that. You got to have the chops. But as we all know, there's just so much more to making it than just the talent. And it's a relationship business.
Yeah. You know what? That is so very, very, very true. Sometimes it's about who you know. Sometimes, not all the time, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes it's about who you know. And as you said, making those connections. What Bob Johnson, that is genius. Make your friends before you have to. And as you said, you are already building these like connections, already building these bridges. From here to the UK to Puerto Rico. Even like Miami, what have you. Like intentional. I believe that's the word I really want to use. So this is like intentional, and it's genius. It's just smart. I want to go back to it again. It's smart because, as you said, for most people, they just think, hey, New York, LA, because we've been trained. Well, yeah, we've been trained to believe those are where the opportunities are. And I'll just say this for a quick, second. I was living in LA for, 2.5 years. And I can tell you, right before COVID hit, that was the mindset of a lot of people. But I think sometimes when you go to these places and you sit and you really examine what's going on the day in and day out, you're like thinking to yourself, you know what? Yeah, I mean, opportunities do happen here, but there are opportunities happening everywhere. And truth be told, some of those, opportunities that we go out here to these major cities for are, drying up and leaving and going elsewhere as well to set up. So I know a lot of people that are moving to Vegas, a lot of people that are moving to Arizona, they're building up shop there. They're building up shop in Texas, so the South the South as a whole is building up. North Carolina, on the East Coast or what have you. South Carolina, believe it or not, Virginia. Like, these are places we don't really think about. And, as far as the Midwest, I could tell you, like, hey, Missouri, even Oklahoma City, like, there are opportunities there. But we're just trained to believe, hey, it's either on the East Coast in New York or it's on the West Coast in LA. And as you said, COVID, if it's one thing COVID has taught us, besides taking care of the body, that you can have opportunities anywhere. This show was founded during COVID, and it allowed me to talk to people from all around the world, not just here in Chicago, but from all over the world, period. Australia, Africa, even like Iceland, like, okay, who lives there? But talking to people in Iceland, I would have never got that chance, so hey, hats off to you, brother. Hats off to the platform. And I'm going to say it again. Genius. Okay? Genius, ladies and gentlemen. But he's from Chicago, so we already know it. So, I mean, I'm just saying, it's just a brag. Hey, I'm just putting it out there. Okay?
Shout out to my guys that wrote on the Netflix project called Genius about Kanye from Chicago. Coming out on Netflix, I believe, pretty soon. I think it's about to come out pretty soon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So some of those, it's a small world. A lot of dope cats from the South Side.
Hey, that's just what we do, ladies and gentlemen. That's just what we do. I mean, I would call it a humble brag, but it's just facts. Okay, hey, There it is, people. Okay. So we've hit it on it a little bit, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. But can you talk about the importance of your platform as far as featuring Black and brown creators who may not have had an opportunity, in any other mainstream platforms like a Hulu, Netflix, or what have you?
So we've gone through a bit of a journey there. Originally, we were actually going to launch our own streaming platform, and there are huge upsides to doing that successfully. We pivoted a bit from that. So when we use the term platform, we are mostly referring to our model and the way that we execute finding talent, creation of content, and distribution. So for us, it's more of a model. And then when we think of platforms, one of my favorite movies was American Gangster, and I remember Frank looked at the character. He said, "I want to go to the source," and he's not to promote any types of lifestyles or anything like that, but the essence of what he was saying was, he said, "I have a better product. I have a product twice as good for half the cost," but because he was at the source. So I realized that while we were on this trajectory to build our own streamer and do all this other stuff, there were waves that were already there. But what we had that others didn't was the source of the actual content. Our ecosystem cultivated the relationships with the creatives that built the content that a lot of platforms need. And so we're like, why would we need to be one platform when we can supply all the platforms? And so that was our whole goal. And to your point about the importance of Black and brown, representation matters. And you immediately go from the idea of who's in front of the camera as a direct correlation to who's behind the camera, who's making the decisions, who's calling the shots. And so if you start to think about who's calling the shots, now you get into a conversation about infrastructure. And you start to see things that you would have never even thought about as it relates to the business of show, not just show business. And then you start to get into a place where you're like, wow, I'll find myself in the meeting discussing something that I would have thought had nothing to do with entertainment, but is related to politics or finance or all these other things that have an impact that when you're sitting in the seat just watching your show, are not even thinking about. And even I started as a talent in front of the camera. I wouldn't have thought anything about the stuff that, some of the conversations I'm a part of right now. But that's where you make the difference. That's where the difference is really made, is in the decision-making process of what gets created, what gets produced, what gets distributed, what the people can hear. And after I watched Bob Johnson, I watched Byron Allen, and he talked about how powerful individuals who control media are. And that's a huge piece of what you see in front of the camera or listen to.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say this. I know this is Black History Month, and, from time to time, if you're watching television, you'll see, hey, we're showing, African-American movies, and, we're putting our best foot forward. So sometimes you're thinking, oh, okay, well, man, I'm going to support us, or, for Latino, yeah, I'm going to watch this Latino movie, because this is about us. But as you said, there are certain things that go on behind the camera, and furthermore, behind that camera, there are rooms that decisions are being made, even though, like, on the outside, well, yeah, this is a project of, Black or brown, but behind closed doors, representation doesn't get, its fair shake, because I can tell you, like, if you just look at the list of credits, I always check for directors. I always check for writers. I always check for producers. Like, those things matter to me, because if these stories are really going to be told, and if these are really our stories, shouldn't it be really us telling these stories? Shouldn't it be us producing these stories? Shouldn't it be us funding these stories, or what have you? And I know sometimes, especially, for us in the Black community, resources are scarce. We don't really own any true resources, So to have something, this major and, to be behind the scenes, to sort of speak, hey, look, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, genius, he's making waves, okay, and putting others on, showing others how to do it as well. So, well, okay, all right. But now, talk to us a little bit about, Creative Cypher and your other venture, Pryor Holdings LLC. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so from a legal standpoint, from a business standpoint, Creative Cypher is the entertainment company. That's the brand that you'll see when things are produced, curated, any live event. Creative Cypher is the entity that puts that on. Pryor Holdings is the parent company. So Pryor Holdings is the company that typically is actually signing off on the deals. So that's the entity above Creative Cypher. When we have the opportunity to negotiate equity in things, Pryor Holdings is the entity that actually holds that. And I set it up in that way for a variety of reasons. But just consider Disney and ESPN or Disney and ABC. For those that haven't researched like who owns what, there are only a small amount of major companies that own all the rest of them. So it's important to follow the chain. So that's what those two entities are. One is really focused on like the brass tacks, and the other is more the forward-facing entertainment brand.
Okay. Look, so to your point, I think sometimes we get caught up in, hey, you know what, I'm just going to make everything under this umbrella, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with, okay, I have an umbrella brand, I have X, Y, and Z over here, and then I have X, Y, and Z over here. But as you said, okay, who's going to handle the equity? Who's going to, handle this part? Like, where's that coming from? Well, I don't have anything that falls under that. Oh, okay, well, live events. Oh, okay, and, the creative side. Where's that side? Well, I mean, these are all, one of the same. And, hey, to, like, have two different, entities and, but they work together, to create what you see before you. Okay, business, people, business. There's business beyond the business. So once you learn the business beyond the business, it helps the business that you're, currently doing, man, grow even better, bigger and better. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about Troy Pryor, the person. All right. Let me just run down a couple of these, little accolades here that I found out about Mr. Troy Pryor here. Okay. So we want to talk a little bit about your background. Power lifter, football player. He mentioned it before. U of I, Champaign-Urbana. In case you don't know, flying the Illini around here. They're fighting the Illini, but back in my day, it was flying the Illini basketball. I'm just saying, I'm not a boomer. I'm just saying, I just remember a different, time. All right. But not only that, ladies and gentlemen, now the man has many, many, many accolades. Like, I don't have time to name all of them. But I can name that, hey, he was part of President Obama's, Call to Arts initiative. You were a mentor for that. And he's collaborated. We talked about it a little bit, with Ye or what have you. But Donda's House with Rhymefest and, Kanye as well. Also with, like, Common Sense, Rashid Lonnie Lynn, for those, that want to get all personal and technical with it, yeah. But Common Ground Foundation. Look, you have all this, like, history. You have all of these accolades. Like, tell me, just tell us a little bit about your beginnings and just coming up and how you even got to where you are now with your own.
Well, I came from a family full of community leaders and clergy. Grew up in the church, started in the pulpit when I was 13. So a lot of my public speaking and communication skills came from that. Like a lot of singers, I wasn't blessed with the with the ability to sing like some of my cousins, but I was good on the mic. So when I look at what I've been able to do now, it's a direct correlation to that. Like a lot of folks that come up in church and different things like that, they get a lot of their skill set from there. So that was really the start. And what it did was it taught me public speaking skills, how to present. It taught me what leadership looks like. It taught me responsibility because I was active. It taught me impact, and most importantly, gave me a sense of purpose. So no matter what I would do, I knew that there was a greater purpose behind all of that. And fast forward, I played several sports in high school up to college, and everything that I was a part of, even in powerlifting when I was competing solo, I was still a part of a team. So everything had a community aspect to it. Community. So you got to work with different people, learn, different cultures, all towards the same goal. So getting into the world as a talent, once the novelty of only being in front of the camera wore off, and I looked at it from a business perspective, I found myself moving a little bit faster than some of my contemporaries, because where they had more technical knowledge in certain things, they may have not known how to navigate a room or network, what real network is, or were brilliant, but the information was locked inside and they couldn't communicate it out. Whereas I could step in and maybe know half of what you know, but because you can't tell them anything, I can tell them what I do know, and I become the subject matter expert. And I found that sometimes just sitting on panels, man, that opened up a whole door. I'm like, okay, I see you all know more than me, but you're not going to be able to get on stage and rock a mic. So if I get up there, I'm going to use that to my advantage. As a matter of fact, I listened to Jay-Z talk about this a while ago, and it was a tribute to DMX, and he mentioned one of the experiences he had while he had to come after DMX. Now DMX is pure energy, and he was like, there's no way that I'm gonna get on stage and out DMX. This is Hov. And he said, but lyrically, he's not gonna touch me. So I'm gonna get up there and go a cappella. So he knew his strengths, and he knew what to do when he got into that situation. So for me, I knew that there were others that may have had more experience in some of the technical aspects, but I knew that if I could position myself, I'll use my strengths. And that's the ability to communicate, connect with people, and connect people. That's what led me to being a producer, because a lot of what we're doing is just problem solving. A lot of what we're doing is just finding an individual that has a skill set, presenting them an opportunity, getting them to get involved. And it really boils down to that. So, coming from church to sports, a lot of my mentorship work comes from being involved in service for so long anyway. A lot of the stuff that I've done, I never even thought was a business. I never even thought there was anything special about some of the stuff, because it was just always a part of my day to day, from stacking up chairs and tables after church, throwing trash out, just like little things, think about it. You just, you were groomed to provide value, basically. And so, once you get into the business, you realize that value can be reciprocated. You could turn it into a business. So, that's what I'm doing now, but that's where a lot of it stems from. That's where a lot of the foundation was built on.
Look, let me just say 2 words: intellectual bravery. All right. Now, why am I saying that? Because as you just said, you gave a perfect example with Jay and DMX. Like, you're not going to be able to touch DMX's energy, but lyrically, oh, he's not even like in the same like block as me. You know, I'm on a totally different block than DMX or what have you. So as you said, you know, even sitting on certain panels, like, okay, there may be these geniuses on these panels and people who know a lot, and I may know half of what they know, but I have this capability of speaking and talking, and it's all rooted in the church. And I think that's where the bravery comes in, because, you know, to be 13, you know, and starting off doing this and, you know, getting in front of people, just speaking period, you know, in public places, that takes a certain level of bravery. Not everyone can do that and be effective. You know, anyone can pick up a mic and start talking. Not a lot of people can pick up a mic and be effective with speaking, you know. And once you like hone that craft, it doesn't really matter what the subject matter is, you know. If I know at the end of the day you're going to hand me that mic and I get to speak, once I start talking, oh man, it's game over. It's game over, okay? So, like, yeah, that's my intention. My intention is to come up here and to say what I have to say, but say it in a manner that I will be remembered. Not to say that you won't. You probably won't. If you're coming after me, you probably won't. But I'm just saying, you know, oh man, look, hey, I am impressed, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I have to use the I word, impressed. I am impressed. And, you know, look, this is only the beginning. I just feel this is only the beginning of, you know, what you're, you know, pretty much what you and everything that you're doing has to offer, not only to people in Chicago, but to people around the world, as you said, because you're making connections on an international level, as well as a national level, as well as a local level as well. So there it is. There it is. Okay. Now, if people want to get in contact with you, if they want to know more about everything that it is that you're doing, how can they do so via social media, websites, what have you?
Sure. So you can go to my website, which is troypryor.com. You can follow me on social media. That's at Troy O. Pryor. And you can go to Creative Cypher at Creative Cypher.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. Like, hey, look here, TroyPryor.com, ladies and gentlemen. Go on there, support, see what's going on. And if you're a millennial, Gen X or Gen Z or whatever watching, man, you have a project you think you want to contribute, or you have something that you feel you can contribute to the cause, reach out. Be brave. Please, you know, this is just where we are in the world today. Like, you know, you don't have to be a traditionalist to get everything you need out. You know, like, we live in a totally different day and time now. So go for yours, okay? Now, Mr. Troy Pryor, I'm kind of anxious to hear this. We've come to the last question, but this is the question that my show is known for, so I will present it to you. What is the one word that best describes you, and why?
Observant. I say observant. I have a personal motto, OAC, observe, adapt, and conquer. And I say observant because it sums up what I always say: be a student of the game, constantly learning. But so much of what I've been able to do has been a direct result of paying attention and watching. Even when I'll get the accolades for speaking, I always tell folks that good speakers are great listeners. And you can't do a lot of these things without watching. You know, even on some of the boards and organizations that I'm on, sometimes when individuals are challenged with the specific issue, or they're trying to attract an audience or work with a certain demographic, I'll pose a simple question and I'll ask them, did you ask them what they wanted? Because so often we just speak at people and just say, they want this, they want this. I'm like, well, are you listening? Are you watching? You know, this is no trick. There's no trick to it. You know, just ask them, what do you want? Now, if they tell you something and you can do it, then you're going to hit your mark. But if you just come at folks and say, here, take this, You may turn a lot of people off. It may not be something that they want. And then the old business adage, supply and demand. We got a lot of supply, but if there's no demand for it, it doesn't matter. So I say observing, because there's no way to be effective if you don't know what direction you need to be going.
Okay, look, hey, a wise person once told me, learn the culture before you make your change. You just can't walk in making changes to something you know nothing about. Learn what it is that you know surrounds you. Learn where it is you are in the things that surround you. And once you learn and study, as you said, being observant, you can make those changes. All right then, everybody. Look, I want to thank Troy Pryor for being my guest on the show today. Look, those were fabulous. Man, look, I love and enjoyed this conversation that we had. Look, follow him, everybody. TroyPryor.com. That's where it is. That's where you need to be. All right. And on that note, this has been Word with Ty Brownlow. I have been Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. Follow me. All social media platforms at Word with Ty Brownlow. Or you can just go to my website, tybrownlow.com. Get this wonderful interview plus other great interviews. We out, y'all. Peace.